Lynn, why on earth would you choose to do a PhD of your own volition?
That's the good question. Now I'm thinking back why the hell I'm here. To be honest, I didn't know why I chose to do the PhD. But then actually for a lot of other people out there, I was born and raised in Vietnam. I actually did my undergrad in Vietnam. So one thing that I know, one thing that I knew at the time was that I want to go to America. So with a background in chemistry, I graduated with Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. How can I get to America? The easiest way is to get a PhD. The easiest way is to actually get the university to give me the admission along with some stipend. That's how I get out. Now looking back, I think that yeah, to answer the question why PhD, um, I think that the past 20 years of me being on this academia, on this technical road, is actually much more rewarding than I could ever thought of.
Okay, all right. Well, don't spoil the story too quickly for me now. You'll take away my job. Welcome to How It's Meant, the podcast where we chat with people who are shaping the future of health tech and healthcare. On this podcast, we learn about the secrets, stories, and skill sets of amazing people who are ensuring that we can live longer, healthier lives so that smart people like you, dear listener, can contribute more easily in your own informed way. This time around, were rejoined or joined by the inimitable Lin Lee, a serial startup founder, a startup mentor, and so much more. Currently, a pharmaceutical sciences entrepreneur in residence at UBC and founding partner of Bioplastics, a biodegradable bioplastic solution. Lin, apart from being a man of way too many hats, how are you doing and how was the BMO marathon that you barely trained for?
Thank you so much for following up with me on my social. Yes, today is Monday, and then I am. I finished the BMO marathon yesterday, and to be honest, this is my first time running the Vancouver Marathon. As some of you know already, I moved to Vancouver in 2020. I signed up for Vancouver Marathon 2020, 2021, and obviously it was canceled. I missed last year because of my travel, but then this year I've done it. And then actually I met my goal running a sub 4 hours, 15 minutes with not a lot of training, as you said already, Joffrey. And then I feel sore, but then I don't regret.
Honestly, at this point, you're just flexing on the listeners overall. And I'm sure that if you actually got the training that you needed to make sure that you could go sub 4, you'd achieve it with no difficulty at all. But speaking of flexing, your first startup was called Flextra Power, but I mean, even before that, you did your PhD, as we mentioned. And between those two, I guess, specific parts of your life, you did something called being a technology transfer associate. What is that? And why did you go down that path after your PhD?
Sure. I think that it is not correct in a way, and then I have to correct you that
Okay, go ahead.
actually, I am the technology transfer associate as well as founding my first company, Flexure Power, while I was a PhD student. So technically, I did
Okay,
not
sorry.
finish. So technically, I did not finish PhD while doing that. And then to answer the first question, why Flexure Power? The name actually came literally during my shower. So at that time, when I was working on my PhD project, I was working with a nanomaterial called graphene. Now I think that 500,000 people knows what graphene is. But then back in the day, 2009, 2010, I would say less than 1,000 people knows about the graphene material. So graphene material at that time was called like a wonderful, like a wonder material in a way. And then they are strong, they are transparent, they are flexible. And then the name Flexure Power, as I can hint you a little bit, is actually the whole purpose of the company, Flexure Power, is to realize the power of the flexible and transparent material called graphene. And then I think that at that time it served the purpose really well. It served my purpose of being the founding CEO of the company. And then I think that, yeah, I fulfill my job of realizing the power of that material.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So couple I guess tangents that I want to dig off that correction of sorry, my erroneous research and not necessarily crediting you with wearing three hats at one time. Um Number one was what point in your PhD did you realize that you wanted to go off in the direction of entrepreneurship instead of pursuing the typical tenure route?
hmm I think that was around my fourth year PhD training when I at that time almost finished with the PhD thesis. So at that time, I probably had like three patents in my name as a co-inventor. I probably has two publications at that time already been published, and then one more being um, in preparation or in submission. And then what I had a realization moment was when I was literally talking with a friend, and then he is much more senior than I am. And then I realized that what I want to do with my life. And then as a fourth year, fifth year PhD student who want to get out there in the world, basically what I am seeing myself is I have some patent, I have some um, publication, but then does it really means anything if it doesn't create anything to the world? Uh, what would it be if it just like ending up as a dissertation in a library somewhere? What would it make for the society? And then basically that was a moment when I am thinking to myself that this technology has a lot of good potential. What can I do? I am the person who knows about this. I am the one who I call myself a co-inventor. I have the responsibility to further push the technology. And then the end goal was to see, we're trying to see if the technology can be applicable in any type of products. And then, yeah, we can go into like technology transfer associate like right after, because at that time I was a blank page. I was literally like a white paper. I tried to absorb as many things as possible. And then actually I know nothing about commercialization of the technology. So where do I learn? I go to the tech transfer office, and then I say, "Hey, you are the one who help us find this patent, right? You are the one who think that this has some potential. What to do next?" And then that exactly why I volunteer myself to become a tech transfer associate. I was super lucky because at that time, like in New York, entrepreneurship is a thing. Entrepreneurial training is a thing, and then that's how I get the opportunity.
Hmm. And you mentioned that you walked up. You're like, how do you actually commercialize this? I guess what did you actually do as a tech transfer associate with a larger institution?
Sure. At the larger institution, there are a couple of things that they are doing at the tech transfer office. And then my priority was to actually play a role of the manager to the patent portfolio or patent portfolio buckets that I was a co-inventor for. And then I do all sort of market research, all sort of which company might be interested in the all of the potential application that this technology has a potential for. And then toward the end of those 4 months intern, I would call, I have a list of 120 something potential application for the technology that I have been co-inventing for.
Hmm. So it seems like it was, I guess, lucrative for you in terms of knowledge as well as understanding where best to find the, I guess, next possible product market fit for wherever the patent that you wanted could go. I guess from there, from all the different 120 different options, which one did you pick? And I'm interested, were any of those options applicable to biomedical engineering or health tech overall?
Yep. That is a super great question. And then at that time, if I remember correctly, early 2010, 2012, the term product market fit was not even exist yet. So at
How?
that time, yeah, I mean, at that time, everything that I have heard of, which is like problem founder fit, technology vertical fit. Um, Throughout my training, I did not know about the product. I mean, about the product market fit. It was, to be honest, it was not until like very recently that the term product market fit was widely used, and um, yeah, especially in terms of education. Um, as you know already, that now Plexure Power um, was the company that I was the original co-founder, and then actually we developed the connected insole that help diabetic patient. So essentially, it's a smart insole that tracking um, temperature, pressure at the bottom of the foot for diabetic patient, and then we let them know if there is any irregularity in terms of their foot health, so we notify the doctors, the caregiver, so we will be able to help them better maintain their foot health. And ultimately, we want to prevent them from having the diabetic foot amputation. Was it in the top 10 of the 120 something application? No. Was it in top 50? Probably yes. So again, yeah, it is a big list, and then I was able to um, narrow it down, and then yeah, at the same time, that was a fun process for me.
Yeah. How do you begin to narrow down the ideas? Because 120 is a very long list. And if you had 120 different ways that you could choose to apply the technology that you had, and you had a limited amount of time with which you could work on Flexure Power. Looking back now, because you're not with Flexure Power full time, if I'm again stating correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. How do you pick and choose what exactly to do and where to best apply slash license whatever technology that you had in hand?
Sure. I think that running a startup is always fun in
Yeah.
that, and then also I was in my early mid 20 at the time. You think that I prioritize and work on like which application? No, I pursue all 100, 120 of the application. We all have time and energy. I am in my mid 30 now. I don't do that anymore. I am a little bit wiser, but then I'm definitely lack of energy compared to when I was in my 20s.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I mean, could you tell me more about the model which you pursued in order to make sure that the, I guess, technology that was under patent was developed by the right people? Because again, you said there are multiple different applications, there are multiple different companies who you could partner with, and you had ownership of this technology at hand. So how did you pick who you would work with overall? Because the whole reason why I'm asking this question is because I'm trying to speak from the perspective of a graduate student who's come up with this new tech, who might be in the same circumstance as you. How would they choose the right person? How would they, if they had less energy than the mid 20s Lin, choose who best to work with for the biggest bang for their buck?
Sure. I think that there is no right or wrong to
Yeah.
that. There's no right or wrong answer to that question because the way that I'm seeing it, I was super lucky because I have the right mentor and then I have a right advisor with us from the beginning. So I am who I am today because actually we got a couple of right advisor from the very beginning of the founding of Fletcher Power actually, and then I think that the ability of me to pursue all different application at the same time with some priority in the applicable market per the suggestion from the serial entrepreneur that go before me. So I would credit a lot for that particular business advisor, and then one of the original co-founder of Fletcher Power from the beginning really give me uh, the direction on where to go. And then
Hmm.
because he has been leading some uh, basically successful exist for the startup earlier. So he actually told me, he actually suggested me to look at a couple of different vertical. First, if I want to build a government contractor business, I can go and then talk with U.S. Army. I can go to talk with defense and all of those military application. But then at the same time, as an international student, it is very hard for me to do it. So the second vertical that I can go to is actually medical application. And then that's how I was able to narrow it down a little bit within the medical application, how this technology might be able to be applicable, right? So at that time, we were working on the printing technology of the nanomaterial. How the heck did I know that I will be in the insole business? I could be in a clothing business. I could be in bedsheet business. I could be in Windows business. It could be anywhere within the medical community or medical application. And then that narrowed down to, I remember, about 15 or 16 potential application within the medical. So that really saved a lot of energy and effort for me to find the product market fit for Fletcher Power.
Hmm. So, how representative of the general, I guess, graduate student inventor slash patenter experience, how representative was your experience with Fletcher Power? Do you think it is outside the range of normal? Or is it kind of within the range of what someone could expect to do with an invention that they've come up with during the span of their graduate student career today?
I think that there are a few things that I can talk about it. Number one is that the we are living in a different world now, in
Yeah.
a different era compared to 10 years ago when I first do my business. The amount of resources, the amount of um, mentorship is is crazy. At that time, when I first doing my when I was working on Fletcher Power, I probably has two advisor, and then those two advisor probably spend like 1 to 2 hours per month with me. So yeah, that's not a lot. But then now, entrepreneurship is a thing right here in UBC. Every day, all day, literally. I'm talking with someone. Could be an undergrad student, could be a PhD, even could be a postdoc and a PI. They all think about how this particular invention or how this particular new formula can potentially be spinning off as a startup company, and then commercialize the invention
Hmm.
that it easier. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess how did the university best help you when you were going through to, I guess, push your research from an idea all the way to commercialization? Was it a lot of it by your own blood, sweat, and tears? Or was there a lot of backing that I guess is more available to the students and PIs of today than it was back then for you?
Mhm. Um, Now looking back, I think that every university, almost all university, knows the importance of entrepreneurship. So they spend way more effort, time, energy, and resources to push to push entrepreneurship now compared to 10 years ago.
Why?
I still remember that 10 years ago, the very traditional career for PhD is yeah, you graduate with your PhD, you go get a job either in industry or academia, or maybe you go and do a consulting for management consulting, for example. Basically, you get a good salary, and yeah, voila, that's it. Life is done. But then I think that now university try to promote more entrepreneurship training, I am seeing way more educational resources. And then, especially now, the economy is changing in a way, especially after COVID. The way that I'm seeing it is that small business is also participating in um, bigger chunk of the economy compared to 10 years ago. So that is definitely the macro trend that a newly graduate student or newly grad student actually need to potentially take a look at as well.
Hmm. Hmm. So you've talked about there being a lot more resources available for those who are going through university to be supported in their journey into entrepreneurship overall. But I guess I wanted to focus this conversation largely around commercialization. What are the main challenges that first time academic founders face when trying to commercialize a technology from your perspective?
Hmm. From my perspective, first-time entrepreneur or first-time founder always have the problem with how to sell their technology. So now looking back, I was a terrible salesman when I'm talking about the technology that I was working on. Um, I would think that communication and effective communication is the core strength that any entrepreneur should have. And then now, even I'm looking back. I'm thinking back to my first pitch 10 years ago. I think that it should be it. Yeah, I don't want to look at it anymore. I was I
The
was
secondhand
embarrassed.
cringe was too much.
Yep, exactly. To be honest, looking back at that one, and then I say that holy crap, my 10-year-old son can do a better job than me. So again, coming back to the point of how first-time founder can do a better job, effective communication with all different stakeholder, not just investor. They would need to talk to partnership. They would need to talk to potential employee. They would need to talk with um, almost everyone, and then the skill of writing a grant in order to potentially bring the product to higher technology readiness level. That's how you are going to build the successful business from the early
Mhm,
on.
mhm. So you've mentioned three things there. Bringing the technology to a higher technology readiness level. You've mentioned being able to write grants so that you're able to bring the technology to a higher technology readiness level. And you've mentioned communication with all the different stakeholders. I guess what are the big pitfalls that you've seen the startup founders face beyond these barriers? What are the common mistakes that they've made? Perhaps do they not know about who to engage and who to communicate with? Or are there other common mistakes that you looking back now would have, reached back to your old self and been like, don't make that mistake now?
Sure. Yeah, I have been working with a lot of startup founder in my capacity as the entrepreneur in residence here at UBC. I'm seeing from my perspective that the most common mistake that any entrepreneur are making is not dreaming big enough. I'm clearly seeing that the vision of the founder should be really making the change in the world. And then you you can dream big and then you execute small. And that's how you're becoming a very, I would say, that's how you're going to become a successful founder. And then that's how you're becoming inspirational entrepreneur. You dream big. Here's how you're going to change the world. But then you need to take a baby step, execute small. Here's my plan for the next 6 months. Here's my plan for the next 12 months, for the next 4 years, 5 years. Here's how we're going to do. Nobody can predict the future, but then that's how you, as an entrepreneur, will build your career, will build your credibility by dream big and start small.
Hmm. What's really conspicuous about everything that you've said, dreaming big, communicating, writing grants, being able to, work on your tech. is the fact that you haven't mentioned intellectual property. That's a thorny issue at times when going from a university supported setting to going out in the big wide world where you need to have a clear idea of who owns what early on so that there aren't unexpected barriers in the future. How exactly, I guess, what were the pitfalls or barriers that I guess new founders face when it comes to transferring IP in the process of commercializing a technology that they've worked on during the course of their education?
It actually relate to effective communication, the way that I am
Really?
seeing it. Yep, because if you, as a graduate student or postdoc, you can communicate. You can actually communicate with your PI, and then the PI can communicate with any university tech transfer office to make them know that, hey, we have this interesting idea. We have we have this novel innovation. We want to bring it to the market. We want your help. Technology transfer office, believe it or not, they are overwhelmed, but then they want to be helpful. They are really there to support you. But then you, as the entrepreneur, need to let them know that you are working on it. If you don't let them know, how do they know? They will not. And then that actually lead to my next point was that the tech transfer office usually at any university are overwhelmed. They are super busy because there are a lot of application. There is a lot of patent application out there. There is no way for them to know which application or like which patent is good. It is really up to the team to effectively communicate that this technology is the best. And here's the reason why. So do the homework before going to talk to them.
Mhm. So is what you're saying to some extent that you have to sell them on the validity as well as the outstanding nature of your technology so that they're willing to put that extra bit of resource towards ensuring that your tech is able to be commercialized a little more successfully than otherwise if someone just tosses an idea that they've worked on at them?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. Is it like a salesmanship as well, Geoffrey? Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, all right. So what exactly does the tech transfer office do other than specifically finding different uses? How do different universities, from your perspective, both from a Canadian as well as previously an American standpoint, differ when it comes to how universities are willing to keep some more of the equity versus let go of a bit more to ensure that the founders are able to succeed?
Mhm. I think that throughout my uh, experience working with several Canadian university, along with a couple of US based university tech transfer office, I think that there is no right or wrong answer in terms of what is the right amount of equity that university would like to retain. Um, I think that it's really depending on the strategic um, direction of each university, and also it depending on the timeline. So, for example, MIT, as we all know, that they are very open um, with their IP. So the IP actually belong to if I remember correctly, still belong to the PI, and then MIT just have like a small amount of equity um, retained for MIT spin-off. But then at the same time, MIT and Harvard create a huge ecosystem in Boston area. So startup literally come up every single day. The same thing or similar thing happened in Stanford, for example. And then I strongly believe that for certain vertical, such as sustainability or maybe some biotech, Vancouver is 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 becoming the next hub in entrepreneurship.
Hmm. Well, apart from your obvious biases as someone who works with Vancouver centers, why do you say that Vancouver is becoming the next hub?
I do believe that Vancouver is becoming a next hub for a couple of reasons. Vancouver is a beautiful city. It attracts a lot of talent coming to the city. Vancouver has a great work-life balance. I mean, I'm working out of the office here in UBC, where I can look over the beach and also mountain at the same time. So obviously, I am biased. And then the other thing that I'm seeing is that COVID really helped people with the ability to work remotely. So, for example, for me, as you stated from the beginning of this podcast, I'm wearing too many hats. I'm working with my team in Vietnam for the biodegradable plastic. I am consulting with a couple of company in the US, uh, and then at the same time, I'm here in UBC working with EADBC and also pharmaceutical science, trying to help the next generation entrepreneur.
Hmm. Hmm. So it seems like there's lots of jobs and connections that are being stacked into the BC ecosystem. But to turn the tide of the conversation back into, I guess, the commercialization pathway, what we haven't really touched on is kind of the step by step process that someone needs to take if they have an idea that they want to commercialize. So, say someone has patented or has an idea about process A, right? How would they turn process A into a commercializable product from your point of view if process A was built within a university lab? Can you take us step by step so we can understand how someone should approach this problem and who they should reach out to?
Hmm. Yep, I can definitely help with that particular train of thought. Here's how I will be doing it. Assuming that I am working in a lab, and then I am again co-inventor of a process A. As you said, process A is super cool because it's better than the current incumbent process B. Process A is about 200 times faster, is about 1,000 times more efficient.
I'm
But
sold. I'm
then
sold.
yeah, exactly. But still, who cares, right? The processor is good. Engineering wise, cost wise, is awesome. But then who cares? I would think that at that time I would have to go out and then validate that actually this process A, even though it's better than process B, but people willing to use it or not. That would be my first step. Step one. Does people care? And once people care, when people showing that, yeah, I would love to work with process A. However, process A need to be improved in this and this and this. And then that's how I'm going to go back to the university. I'm saying that, yes, I know that I'm still a PhD student. I know that I am working within the university lab. I know that the patent or the patent application should be assigned to the university, but here's a proof. I have been talking with customer X and Y and Z, and then they love to work with the process A, which is I am the co-inventor. I would love to work with you from the tech transfer office in order to help me not only filing the patent protection, but then also I would love to continue to be incubate within university. So
Hmm.
that is exactly why startup from the beginning, especially university spin-off, should stick within the university ecosystem for as long as possible because university is there to help you. So that is step two. You can basically um, form the company, incorporate the company, staying within the university ecosystem, prove that process A really matter. You can continue to improve on the process A. Let's call that you have the process A prime. Customer would like to buy it. Okay, continue to bootstrap, and that's how you're going to validate process A or the improvement of the process A prime would actually be um, having a value proposition for the customer. Now is a time to go into the university and talk to them. I would like to exclusively license the whole patent portfolio. It is time for me to graduate from the bootstrapping stage. I will be going out. I will rent our own facility. I will continue to build the technology, and then we're going to reach out to 100 more customers. So that would be the scaling up process. And then I would hope that by that time, any grad student or PI or postdoc would be able to um, gravitate around enough people to make it really the business.
Hmm. I think so. That was a very clear, I guess, outline in terms of you've got a rough product, it offers some theoretical benefit, and you need to number one, define the interest from industry or the industry standard or the incumbent, and also have conversations with the tech transfer office early on to secure ongoing incubation, whereupon you can make improvements enough so that you're eventually able to spin off from the university. Two questions kind of spin off, no pun intended, from your story there, though.
Mhm.
Number one is when exactly do you file that patent? Because if you have those conversations with industry sources about process A before you file that patent, doesn't that invalidate your exclusive right to that specific idea? Shouldn't you approach the patent office sooner rather than later?
Sure. So let's answer that first question right now. As we all know, that the patent actually need to be submitted before the public disclosure. And then, yes, theoretically speaking, it would have been better if a process A would be protected uh, before talking with any outside parties. And then, to be honest, filing a patent is relatively simple. I've done this many times, and then even a Canadian company or Canadian entity or Canadian person, they can submit the U.S. provisional patent, and then the U.S. provisional patent literally take like a week for anyone to write. As long as you pass the non-obviousness test, as long as you make a couple of check mark in terms of patent application, that's how you become a patent application. That's how you're going to find your first patent application.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So it's a relatively simple process. Do it as early as possible. The second question would then be if you're using your time being incubated within the university to improve process A into process A prime and grow your network of interested parties and supportive parties such that you can finally spin off into the community, at what point do you know that you're ready? Because theoretically, you could always stay safe and warm, incubated in the university and never have to leave because it's so warm. It's like getting out of bed. You never want to get out of bed because the blankets are so warm. At what point do you know that, hey, I kind of need to get up now and make sure that I'm able to actually realize what this company should be instead of just staying within this blanket of warmth that a larger institution provides?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. I have been observing my kids when he was learning to walk. I never asked a question on when he can graduate from walking in order to go running. So that is interesting because he just know when he need to run. So that would be an indirect way to answer the question that when you feels like you are ready to run, you just run. So again, for a startup company, it could be anything. It could be from the university can only accommodate up to like eight, seven, I mean 7, 8 people in the lab. And then if you need 20 people to work on the process APRAM, for example, especially when you have 1 or 2 or 3 customer with different um, customer requirement, then you will need a bigger space. And then that's how
Hmm.
you know it is the time to get out of the warm blanket. It is time to
Hmm.
be out there. It is time to see the whole world.
So basically, once you outgrow that blanket. So then I guess this flows naturally into the next part of the conversation, which is the value of commercialization support programs, such as that which you provide expert review for, such as NMIN Strategic Initiative, KTE, and Commercialization Support Program. First of all, what a mouthful. And second of all, what value do those commercialization support programs provide?
Sure. I think that am, um, to be honest, I am crediting a lot that what I'm doing with Lux. Um, I mean, I am in general, I'm a lucky person. When I first came to Canada, I have no idea that nanomedicine innovation network exists. But then I am who I am. I just like talk to different people. I got in touch with person A, and then person A put me in touch with person B, and then the person B who happened to know that hey, nanomedicine had a new program called Commercialization Advisory Board, and then actually that's how they found my previous experience with fracture power useful for them. So in terms of commercialization support that nanomedicine is creating, I would say that from my perspective, nanomedicine is relatively new. It's actually founded by Peter Collis and uh, Gilbert, obviously from who is the one of the original co-inventor of the lipid nanoparticle here in Vancouver and also in Toronto. Um, LNP has been there for a long time, but then people did not know about it until COVID, right? Moderna vaccine as well as Pfizer, BioNTech. I mean, are always using the LNP technology to deliver. So it is my job to work with the people within the community, academia, um, strategic partner, in order to look at how this field can be further applicable in other area. So not just vaccine, we are talking about therapeutic area, we are talking about personalized medicine, so it could be anything. And my small contribution would be to look at each each and every market and then see in the future, not 1 year, 2 years, in 1 decade, 2 decade, what would be the good like commercialization opportunity for that particular technology.
Hmm. That's super fascinating work in terms of being able to figure out which, basically replicating your work with power and the different, I guess, pieces of work that you managed to string together, or ideas that you strung together with the tech transfer office from way back in the earlier part of your career. But more specifically, once you've identified these companies that have the potential to make a massive impact with their tech, what do you do to support them?
Oh, I do everything to support them, and then I do what I can. And then I'm pretty lucky. Again, I'm lucky to be able to potentially help the company not only with my expertise, but then also with some cash as well. So
Hmm.
you probably know already that I am also angel investing. And then when I meet the founder, inspiring founder who dream big and execute small, I love that founder. I would love to put in some angel investment money for them.
Hmm. So you're talking expertise, network, customers, cash, basically everything that a startup needs to succeed, from beyond the kind of incubatory period, from an institution, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Okay. So you've worn a million hats and you continue to do so, but you've ended up now with bioplastics. And listener, it's BUYO bioplastics. I'm not repeating bio twice for no reason. Um so how did this work? Eventually end up with that group.
Bioplastic is actually a accidental for me. So when I make a decision that I am exiting from my former company, Fletcher Power, then I put a literally like an ad on my social saying that I am exiting from my previous company, and then it has been a great and wonderful time. I decided that I want to take a step back and then not doing anything for a couple of years. Running a startup is hard, so I'm not opening to work on another company. However, when people seeing that I am taking the step back from Fletcher Power, a couple of them actually reach out and then saying that, "Hey, Ling, I saw that you are uh, no longer working full time for Fletcher Power. I'm having this project. Can you help me out a little bit?" And then bioplastic is one of them. The more I'm interacting with the team, the more I am learning that holy crap, that is a big world out there that I do not know. Um, so originally, um, the vision is still there. We want to work on the circular economy. We want to reduce the plastic consumption everywhere uh, around the world. And then at the same time, my son, who is 10, go to public school here in Vancouver. And then one of the biggest problem that he is seeing, he would love to reduce the plastic consumption as well. So actually, this is one of the, I would say, father and son summer project last year uh, for me. And then it turns out that I I love this project more than I originally thought. And then actually, whenever my son is going out there and then talking with other people, he always said that this is my dad. He's doing everything he can in order to reduce the plastic consumption. And every time I hear about it, to be honest, tears going out my eyes because we are doing everything we can in order to preserve the planet in the next not only decade, but then century.
Hmm. Yeah, I have read absolutely terrifying things about the exponentially increasing amount of plastics that we use and microplastics that are accumulating everywhere in our environment, as well as disrupting endocrine systems, etc. So it is panic inducing to say the least. To connect that back to healthcare and health tech, if any of you listeners have ever been in an OR, you've seen the 1 to 3 trash bags worth of plastic, to say the least, that leaves the OR after every OR. Multiply that by about maybe 30 ORs in a single large institution, times 365 days a year, times 12. And you see that you basically produce a massive mountain of plastic that should be reduced because, healthcare does have a massive impact. That is to say, I mean, I really look forward to the work that you're doing with bioplastics, but maybe I've taken away some of your thunder there. Maybe I assume too much. But what other implications do you see in the adoption of bio's products in the healthcare market overall, Lynn?
Yep, you are not taking any thunder, or then basically you're not making any assumption because 1 plus 1 equal 2. It's always like that. Healthcare market or healthcare industry definitely contribute a lot in the disposable product, and then gown, and then shoe cover, and then gloves, all of those things. But then, to be honest, PPE is there to protect doctors, to protect healthcare professionals. So it is my job, it is our job at Bio in order to come up with a product that protect everyone, right? So basically, we need to come up with the next generation product, circular economy, all of those things, in order to help protecting the nurse, protecting the healthcare professional, but at the same time, not creating any more disposable, any huge plastic for the planet. So I really hope that over the next 5 years, biotechnology would be able to offer the product for the healthcare market.
Hmm. And I certainly hope so too. We've talked at length about one of the main projects that you're working on right now, but other than that, do you have any pluggables to plug, any ideas that you want to share that others can reach out to you for?
Sure. Yeah. I think that I am now in my mid 30s. So I think that when I am
Mid 30s, you're young.
on mid 30s year young. Yes, yes. But then to be honest, I used to run a sub marathon, a sub 4 marathon very easily.
Come
I was
on.
I was sore yesterday running a 4:15. So I think that my next challenge for this summer is to actually put myself back on training way more. So Jeffrey, I can beat you in the next marathon. That's my hope.
All right. All right. All right. Challenge accepted. Okay. Thanks so much for the chat, Lynn. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.